really interested, the four talks, and I think I would like to remind everybody to send the questions on the chat and I will read them. But I think we can start with the discussion. How do you manage the worries of the patients if they are getting placebo, or so what happens if I get the placebo? How do I get the drug at some point? It's a complicated work. Maybe you can start, Anna, or
how we explain our patients how to be included in a trial.
Yeah, so that they will get, so
how
there
we
is
convince
always
how we convince them.
Mm-hmm.
I convince them because I explain them very well that the study and the objective, but it's much more easy to convince them if I know that after the placebo phase will be an open phase, long-lasting 1 year, and then you can guarantee to them that they will be included in with the active drug. Okay. I know I don't have concerns regarding the adverse events and so on, but regarding the placebo, in our trials, we maintain the basic anti-H1 treatment in our patients, and always we convince them that they will have rescue medications, and try to make them confident with the doctors and with clinical trial nurses.
Great. Johnny?
Yeah, I was just going to add that the other thing that I think is important to explain to patients around the placebo is increasingly trials are designed to not be perfectly 50-50. So they often designed to, have a 2-to-1. So maybe 2 different doses or dosing intervals, plus then a smaller group for placebo. So I think it's important, and that differs from trial to trial. So I think it's important to explain to participants as well that the placebo arm often is less. So the chance, they really understand the chance they get of placebo. And then I think, as Anna mentioned, most trials these days and most ethics committees require companies, certainly in the latest phase of development, so in the phase 3, where the likelihood of an effective treatment is usually drugs don't progress to the phase 3 unless we're fairly certain they will work, that there's an open label extension or there's some mechanism by which even the placebo group will then access the treatment. So I think that increasingly study designs support the fact that we recognize the problems of placebo, and that we include that. Then the other thing, maybe the last comment to have about placebo, is that what is interesting in clinical trials is that you actually often see that the placebo group gets better too. Yeah. We see that, and part of what that might be is that in clinical trials, patients really get a lot of care and attention, often much more than in a routine clinical environment. You might have a routine clinical booking every 3 months, every 6 months, but in the clinical trial, you might, for the first while, be seen every month. And because of that, there's like more scrutiny. Are you taking the correct medicine? Maybe you'll have somebody to look after and address some other health problems that you have. There's just a level of interest on the patient that does have potential benefits. Of course, it can have a burden, right? So you're asked to do a whole lot of extra things, and maybe that takes your time. So that's not necessarily for everybody. But I certainly think that for me, when I counsel patients to participate in clinical trials, I try to underline all of those potential benefits, and also then really contextualize the placebo burden.
Yeah, that's right. We see that a lot, no? The patients are here. Oh, I was not by the cardiologist for a long time, and now I get here for the trial. Yeah. And they really like to be
and also the type of randomization that Peter explained. If it's half a half or it's 1/4, that's it.
Yeah. How do you go with the patient if it's a injection study or more of a tablet, or it's mainly depend on the patient's needs or what we have at the moment, or how the drug works, how many visits there are in the trials.
Dorta, do you have problems if the drug is subcutaneous? Or Jason, do you have problems?
So you mean as in the mode of administration when it comes to the medication, is that right? Yeah. No, yeah. It comes down to patient's preference sometimes and also convenience. Yeah. But for example, we are talking about hereditary angioedema trials. And obviously, what we have currently is, for example, acute attack of HAE using icatibant, which comes as, subcutaneous injection. Yeah. And obviously, people be talking about other alternative medications like this given in other formats such as oral tablet, or a new medication as a long-term prophylaxis instead of having injection every week. Could it be something like a fortnightly or even monthly, like what we see, like lanadelumab given as a fortnightly injection, and then like garadacimab, like monthly injection. So I think it comes down to patient's preference as well. Yeah, when it comes to treatments of choice, the preferred treatment of choice based on individual requirement or basis.
Sergio, do you have any comment?
Yeah, I think we don't have any problems for the mode of giving the medication, if it's subcutaneous or oral, because urticaria is a disease that impacts a lot the quality of life, and the patient wants to be out of the symptoms. So we have no problems with this. And I'd like to add some comments about the placebo. We do exactly like Anna, but in Brazil we have some differences in health regulatory agency. We can tell, we speak to patients and tell if the study goes well and the drug is approved, it shows nice and good safety and efficacy. The patient can receive the treatment as long as he needs. In Brazil, we have this.
Yeah, we have an advantage. We don't use intravenous, and we don't use as an anakinra one injection per day. It's just one per month, and then it's better. But even that, when they develop ligelizumab, they choose the doses for the phase 3 trial, 120 it was, in order to avoid 2 subcutaneous injections. Okay, in order to benefit the patients, reduce one of the subcutaneous injection. No, I don't know, but the patient want to be free of the disease.
Are there any special?
The main point. He wants quality of life, so there's no problem with the way he receives it.
Yeah. As long as there's a treatment plan available, I don't think patient will care too much, about mode of administration. Yeah.
What's a pity, I don't know if it happens in South Africa or in Australia or in South America, is when we have the product in the market, already approved by the agency, sometimes there is a delay in order to be used by the patients for other type of problems, which are really derived from the national health system or from the payers or for the accessibility to the drug. Maybe because this webinar is for patients, no? Yeah. Maybe Peter, do you have some experience on that in South Africa? Because it's a delay.
Yeah, no, definitely that's a problem. And we tend to upfront work with the sponsors and also our regulatory bodies to ensure that the sponsors offer us some kind of a pipeline. So, that might involve open label extension, that might involve early access programs. There are different models, but in essence, the principle is the same, which is that, if you've gone through the burden of participating on a clinical trial, we want to ensure that you, even if, say, you can't afford the medicine, like is often the case in our South African setup, that you still will have access to that treatment after, taking on the risk. So there's normally, and often that, as you say, Anna, if the company is looking to register the medicine, there's a arc to allow people to access it until registration and the drug becomes available in the country. So I think that there's definitely now, and this I think has not always been the case. I think there's much more attention to that and much more focus and requirement that companies upfront think about that when they come to work in new countries or try their drug in a new place.
And did you have the experience sometimes, I don't have it, but some sense from the patients that they feel as an experimental situation? That means that we are at least maybe not providing safe drugs, or maybe they are doing with me things that probably will be not so safe. Do you have this feedback sometimes from the patients?
Yeah, I think on the most part, my experience is that if patients are talked to, they tend to understand the risks and the potential benefits, and also exactly like the way Sergio showed the different phases of the trial, to also understand if people want more details, we can give them more details of where this medicine has come through in terms of in vitro, animal, early human,
exactly.
Those things. And I think people understand that. I mean, I think where we saw the politics of things go a bit awry was in the COVID vaccine era. There we saw a lot of that kind of equality, and definitely we experienced that in South Africa with a lot of unusual views about medicines and the scientific pathway. But I found that for the most part, in the chronic urticaria space or angioedema space, patients may be concerned up front, but once you've explained to them that the kind of extent of data that supports where we are now and why we're approaching them to participate, people don't have that feeling of being experimented on. Yeah.
Caroline, do you want some last sentence from us?
Yeah, sure. Any recommendations for the patients?
Venga, Sergio, you can go it.
Okay. Well, for patients, that they believe that we are working to make their quality of life as well. So this studies has this this mainly objective. That's it.
Jason.
I guess the key thing is being transparent and honest with the patient about how the clinical trials is run, and with all the information that we have at hand, and to hand it out to the patient in a very open way. And patients usually they are quite receptive to the idea. Yeah.
Anna?
I will say that really there is a long time, a heart of work behind any new drugs that can arrive finally to the patient, coming from the very basic academic and scientific basic research and translating after to a drug that should follow such different steps and guarantee safety. And this is a long term, and especially for urticaria, patients should know that the development of omalizumab was because the academia, the scientists, indicated to develop for this indication. And this is very, very important for the urticaria development. And also the other thing which is special for urticaria is that when they control their own disease through the urticaria activity score 7 or the UCT, they are only the patient who is expressing the benefit of the drug. There is not the intervention from the investigator global assessment. And this is exceptional for the urticaria when we compare with placebo. Peter.
Johnny?
Yeah, no, I think my kind of final word is for patients is the concept that they should never feel that participating in a clinical trial is a requirement. All of our centers and all of us, we are committed to caring and bringing the best for Urticaria patients. And also, if people are interested, what the other thing must understand is clinical trials are such that people always have a chance to come back, think about it, ask questions. So that's the other thing. People shouldn't feel pressured to make decisions immediately. People should go ahead, speak to family, come back. That's the nature of clinical trials. We set them up now in the safest possible environment, and then also recognize that people are individuals and that we need to work with a shared decision making to try and find the best option for patients. So that would be my final word on clinical trial.
Great. Thank you very much all for a great webinar. I will just share the last slides and give thanks to everybody. And again, suggest please scan the QR code and give us your feedback. Give us your suggestion, which topic should we talk next and discuss in future UCARE for You programs. And also stay connected with us through our social media and website that you can get all this information. Also the centers where if you have urticaria, where you can find the physician that is close to you. And last but not least, thank you to our faculty members. It was great talks and great discussions, and to our sponsors that make this possible. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.